I believe a lot of people buy properties out of prayers their parents prayed for them. A lot of people buy property because of the pressure their wives give to them. I also believe that, sorry, wives, I'm not disrespecting, but I know a lot of people buy properties just because they feel like once they buy property, they are going to stay out of rent. So I would say that the banks would come to you if you are providing. Now, some people will say that, okay, how much is this house going to cost? It's going to cost 250 million. Okay, you know what? I'll give you 200 million upfront. So, I mean, it takes a certain level of trust for you to do something like that. So maybe I haven't gained the bank trust up to now, but I tell you this, if I'm doing a turnover of $1 billion in a year, I believe that the bank should be able to give me 200 million without even asking me for any collateral. My cash flow speaks for itself. But then again, I'm human. They might give me that money and all those good behavior that I've got before might change.
This is Akeem Shittu, MD CEO Maloney Properties, a real estate company in the bustling city of Lagos. On the first part of our sit down, he talks about the perks and also the downsides of the real estate industry and how he was able to break past the entry barrier and thrive in the business.
I mean, I would say I didn't go for real estate. Real estate came looking for me. So I had an idea to start a company called Shakara.com. So Shakara.com came earlier than its supposed time. So it was between me and my friend, Dr. Olusoga. And Dr. really brought up the idea. I was the one working the field for it. But, you know, there was no good internet space. I mean, the speed was very low. So we're talking of 2001, 2002. Where the internet was very, very, very worse. So we tried to push it a while. Along the way, Dr. left Nigeria and he went to the US. So, I mean, it was frustrating. Of course, you know, the likes of Jumia and Konga came and they were able to, you know, they came in when the internet surge was there, the .com businesses were working and all of that. So for me, I was thinking, okay, I had another idea. It was called VMI. For the purpose of my still secret, I can still launch it later. So sometime around 2007, I saw a couple of agents and I asked them, how do you guys do this thing? I just wanted to know. All you need to know is know somebody who wants to buy a house and know somebody who wants to sell a house, or know somebody who knows someone who wants to sell a house. You get 10%. That was the thing. So if I can sell a house of 100 million, I could get 10 million and I can get that 10 million and use it to establish my business and all that. But believe me, it was just all in the face. Apparently, the guys who were advising me about these things haven't even made 10 million before. I mean, they've not even seen 10, they've not been paid 10% before. So they probably got a man who wants to buy a house of 100 million. By the time they are going to do it, they're like about 1 billion and one agent trying to share the 10 million, supposed 10 million, who could come to 2 million at the end of the day. So I sold my first house in 2009 after I started in 2007. So it was a land, it was a good deal, you know, Gudijari as at then. We bought the place for 15 million. I later found out that even the land was supposed to be sold at 10 million, but because of the guys involved, they had loaded, there's this thing they call loading in agency. So when you buy a property, the owner wants to sell for 10 million. You can tell the owner that you had 5 million, and the owner agrees that he will put 5 million on top of that money, and you will take the 5 million, he will take his own 10 million. So it was something like that. I didn't even know. Eventually we sold the house. I mean, it took us like about 2 years when I started looking for a house to buy for the guy. We'll go to this place, we might probably be close to sealing a deal. Someone else will take the deal, or we might go to a place and the person who has the deal will say, you know, I just, if can you pay 30 million? And the guy will be like, my budget is 20 million. Then I didn't sell a house until sometime in 2012 again. And I've got loads of clients who I will take to different places to say, I want to buy this. At times, I have to borrow money, credit money from the guys at the estate gate. I tell them, I'll give you your money back tomorrow. get a credit of 200 naira, not even 15. You charge card. So because I would have thought that this deal is going to fly through. Then all of a sudden, along the way, when we think that we're almost close to the deal, then the guy will stop picking his call. You call the guy, call. The guy doesn't pick his call. So it was a big problem. I was going to get married in 2014. So by 2012, I then back on a project. It was a big project. For me, as at that time, it was a big project. We're going to Sanfile, like about 11 acres of land, somewhere around Ogudu. The owner of the properties had the water, but they didn't have the money to pump into the water sand to turn it to land. So we got into the project and borrowed money from my brother, borrowed money from a mentor, and all sort of things like that. Cut the long story short, after 10 million naira investment, the whole thing, government changed hand. Well, it came into government, Fashola left government, handed it over to Ambode, and they took the registration process away from the state and took it to the federal government, which is National Inland Waterways. So it means that if you want to do that project, that 10 million that we have spent, we have to spend that money all over again to be able to get that license. I mean, it was like a no-brainer. I mean, it even cost a rift between me and my partner, Somto, that we're doing it then, and it was tough, you know, how you've gone from one point to the other. I remember when I eventually got married, and one of the people I was owing 4 million would call me on the night of my honeymoon. Where's my money? And it was crazy, you know. So after I got married, there was pressure of, you know, I got married. This woman is going to get pregnant anytime from now. I have deficit of 12 million naira loan before I got into the marriage. What am I going to do? So I still continue with my usual. Somebody wants to buy a house, I take them to do inspection. You could do 50 inspections and maybe one person will turn out. And that person that will even turn out probably will not pay. It might be the issue. It's another issue for the guy to like the property. It's another issue for the owner of the property to want to sell the property to you. It's another issue for you to have the money as at that point when the landowner needs the property. So at times you might say you want to buy a house 20 million. You have 10 million. You are willing to drop 10 million as a deposit, and that 10 million as a balance eventually. So all these things, put them together and carry them. So I said to myself, so I looked at the environment. This is a very prime environment of Guju. I'm like, you know what? Why don't start development? So I got back home and I told my wife, typical of every woman who doesn't want any form of extra debt, that I think we shouldn't do it because we don't have the money. The cost of construction was going to be running to about 60 million. The barrier to entry for the project was about 5 million and all those things. So I told my wife, I said, you know what? If I do this thing, we'll be in for that debt if it doesn't succeed. If I do this thing and I succeed, we'll settle all our debt. Why don't you let me go in there? So, she would pray about it. Eventually, she allowed me to. We approached the lady who had signed the contract, one Mrs. Ebuji. She wanted to sell the contract to us at 4 million, and we didn't have 4 million. The agent had introduced us to her. They wanted another 2 million. We didn't have 2 million. So number one, how do we go into this thing? So don't forget, I've got backlogs of people who wanted to buy properties, and I've got agents that I know. So what I did even before signing the contract was, I started taking agents there, that I'm the one doing this project. And this is let me start looking for buyers. So of course, there are some things to demolish there. We got some laborers. So when we got the laborers in, the owner of the property wanted the work to start. Either we pay this lady or not. The lady will not let us move into site until we pay. I will pay her rather. The agent also wouldn't let us move to site until we pay them as well. So we have 2 million and 4 million, 6 million barrier to entry into the project. So I said, okay, you know what? I spoke with my brother. Can you give me a loan? The last day those guys gave me was on a Friday. So I kept calling him, kept calling him and calling him. So somehow, he sent me 4 million that day. Yeah, on Friday evening, 4 o'clock. All the banks had closed by 4 o'clock. So, but GT Bank doesn't close until 5 o'clock. So I drove all the way. By the time I got to GT Bank, they are closed. So I called my people in there that, please, I need to get into this thing. Whatever you guys are going to do for me, it's got to work. So I went in. Of course, I need some money for construction. Transfer 2 million to the lady, transfer 1 million to the agent, and that was how the whole thing started. So we're still breaking down when one of the agents I told brought in 2 guys, and they dropped 20 million naira down payment. That was the beginning of our exploiting development. We went into another project in Ilupeju where we built 10 houses. That was also another kind of worm on its own. I mean, required police, required all sorts of things. We're naive, we made mistakes, genuine mistakes, not really that they were deliberate mistakes per se. So if you're having a problem of 100 million, you need to go into another problem of 500 million naira. So 100 million doesn't look small. So if you say, are we going into real estate? We stumbled into it. So in 2009, we registered the company. So by March 19, it will be 12 years since we have been doing this. And okay, so I'll say this in all honesty. I would have been able to say it 100%, except for maybe like a few weeks or a month ago when the bank gave me a loan. That's the first loan I will ever get from the bank for the business. So I'd say that the banks are not my not really go-to, but they are not really the type of partners you want to have when you are trying to come up. So when you say real estate is supposed to be like a big sound. So I always tell most of my bankers friend, I'm going to mention his name, peradventure he stumbles on this video. His name is Dakbo. He works with Sterling Bank. I told him, I said that the banks are not part of your progress. They only come around when you are there. There's something you've got to offer. And I understand to an extent that why they do what they do, but you said the bank doesn't like taking risk. But if I want to get a loan from the bank, is real estate you take as collateral. And you say real estate is a risky business. So it doesn't add up to me. So I might not be that intelligent, but I mean, I want to ask anybody who is much more intelligent than me that will say that if I want to get a loan from the bank needs a collateral. And the collateral has to be like a house. It could be 250% more than what you want to rent as a loan. But you're telling me that I'm saying, come and now invest in that same real estate, and you're saying that it's a risky business. So whatever that must have cost it to be a risky business, there must be something going on somewhere. So I would say that the banks will come to you if you are providing. So, and I will not put them down at the same time, in the sense that even for me, people don't drop money for me down when I started the construction. Now, some people will say that, okay, how much is this house going to cost? It's going to cost 250 million. Okay, you know what? I'll give you 200 million upfront. So, I mean, it takes a certain level of trust for you to do something like that. So maybe I haven't gained the bank trust up to now, but I tell you this, if I'm doing a turnover of $1 billion in a year, I believe that the bank should be able to give me 200 million without even asking me for any collateral. My cash flow speaks for itself. But then again, I'm human. They might give me that money and all those good behavior that I've got before might change. So I want to look at it that in terms of people who come to me too as well as a personality that, hey, guy, I need a loan. give me this and all of that. The person performs first time, second time he performs, then the third time I give the person maybe like 20 million and the person doesn't return my money back. So I'm speaking for them. At the same time, I won't say that I have enjoyed a lot of partnership with the bank. Really, I want to build something that when people come, they will speak that this house is great. When I build the next one, they look at the other one that I built and they'll say that that other house is greater. So we started building the prototypes and the houses came out nice. So everybody who would come there would be like, I want it. Well, I don't have anyone ongoing now. And well, in case you have something ongoing, let me know. Some would even say, you know what, so that you know that I'm serious, take 50 million when you get the house. So we started building our profile one step after the other until we got here. So finances has really not really been a problem. It's not like we still don't look for them, but the way it works is that before we go on a project, we must have somebody who wants to buy the project. If there's nobody willing to buy the project, we're not going to start a project. So because our business is basically an off-plan project, so there must be a buyer before we sell. We don't produce and sell. We sell, then produce. So that helps us to actually get finances. So we already know that we've done our project for profit before that. Okay, it's a very dicey question you're asking, and I hope I don't shoot myself in the leg. But whatever happens, I would choose the path of truth in real estate. I believe a lot of people buy properties out of prayers their parents prayed for them. A lot of people buy property because of the pressure their wives give to them. I also believe that, sorry wives, I'm not disrespecting, but I know a lot of people buy properties just because they feel like once they buy property, they are going to stay out of rent. So my point is, I think real estate appreciates, but to what extent? Your home must be able to appreciate every minute, every second. Your home should not be somewhere where you only spend money. Because if you get a house and you're the only one staying in the house because you want privacy and you're losing 6 million naira every year, I think it's penny wise, pound foolish. Because why are you buying a house of 100 million naira when you can actually do that same 100 million naira and say, I was talking to a client of mine who wanted to buy a house from me, and I told him, I said, see, my point is, I'm not saying don't buy a house. If you buy the house, I'm going to make my profit anyways. But I'm saying, rather than take this house as a semi-detached house, why don't you take a flat, 2-bedroom flat at the base, rent it out to someone? On the first floor, rent it out to someone or sell. You can sell a 3-bedroom inside of Vijay for 50 million. You can sell the two-bedroom detached flat house. You can sell it for like about 35-40 million in Vijay. Then you stay upstairs. How much have you made? You made yourself 85 million naira. You bought the house for 100 million naira. You're staying in a 50 million naira house. Your money is back to you. Do the similar thing. This time around, sell everything. So, if you want to buy a house, don't borrow money to buy a house. It's a setup. If you want to buy a house, don't struggle to buy a house. It's a setup. Don't use your last kobo in the bank to buy a house. It's just a house. I'm sorry, I don't know if this is bad to say, it's a bloody house. It's just a bloody house. You just don't sleep on more than a bed. And when you host your friends, believe me, you can host your friends in a restaurant and you will spend less even. The honest truth is that you must take out of plenty money to buy a house. So if you're going to buy a house, you should have, if you're going to buy a 100 million house, you should have 200 million naira. So if you're going to buy a house for the purpose of investment, so there are a lot of other things you could do. You could partner with some people. You guys buy a house of 100 million, I say again, just like I'm just using hypothetically. And you buy the 100 million naira house. Both of you buy it, sell it for 120, 130, make your 20%, 30% profit. If you guys have future plans together, you can roll the money over again, do another one. If you guys continue for 3 years, you would have made 90% of your investment back. So that's not compounding it. But if you compound it, you probably would have made over 120% in terms of profit. So you can say, okay, I went to do this. Both of you can now say, okay, you know what? If we are sure that we're making 120% back, every 3 years, one of us gets a house. You are just 3 people. In 9 years, you have a house. You have bulk of 200 million naira that you can still be rolling over if you want to be rolling over. If you don't want to partner with someone, you can also start from the little that you have. There's Airbnb businesses that you could do. You could rent a whole house, do the house up, do short let. People put 20, 30K a day for that short let. You make yourself $1 million, 200,000 in a month. You rent the house maybe like 2.5. And in a year, you made yourself 20 million. With that, you can say, okay, you go and meet your landlady or landlord, whatever, and tell the person, I want to pay for 5 years. You know that the money you're going to make from that thing is going to be 20 million per year. In the next 5 years, you have 100 million, you buy yourself a house of 100 million naira. It's that simple. So why do you always need to buy a house when you know that things are that difficult? So I would say it's number 4 in the sense that build your capital to buy a house. Don't buy a house and live in it, because the house you're living in, you are a liability to the house, and the house is also a liability to you. Your son is going to scratch the wall, you're going to have to paint, and guess what? You're going to pay land use charge, which is almost the same price as you are paying as your house rent that you're running away from. So and you're in the bank, for crying out loud, you're going to get a mortgage, and your mortgage is not even cheap. The cheapest you can get a mortgage as of today is 16%. So why don't you get that mortgage, use it to buy a house that the rent you make from the house can actually pay the mortgage. So it's not a disease to stay in a rented apartment. So like I said, I know that some of my clients will just come and say, give me my money back because of what I'm saying. So, but the honest truth is, a house is somewhere you stay and enjoy. Once someone said that if you borrow money to buy a house, it is the house that will give you a heart attack. So because you just realize that, most people go into this thing based on, we think in steps. No matter how much you have 20 years goal plan, we always think as far as our eyes can see. So God forbid, somebody is sick. Until that sickness is solved, until you are healed, you can't think of any other businesses, any other thing. So that's as far as your eyes can see. So you should buy a house. Bible says that build your business before you build your house. It's not a mistake, and it wasn't an adage. It's neither is it a parable. Build your business first. The money from the business, use it to build the house. That's why you see those Igbo boys. They are staying in Face Me, I Face You in Mafoluku, and they are bringing containers. Until that business is able to buy them a house 3 or 4 times over, they will not go and buy a house. So it's the system. So until we understand that, we will keep having a lot of people who say they are in their own house, but they are paying mortgages. I can get 5% from my bank because I work in the bank. The moment you are ready to leave the bank is going to change that interest rate to normal regular rate, except you have the money to pay altogether. So if I'm going to advise anybody, especially younger generation, buy a house that produces income for you. Don't buy a house with expectation that it will appreciate. Even if you appreciate, remember, what is your inflation rate? In the United States, of course, for example, you can actually buy a house and refinance. But property, the interest rate is ridiculously cheap. If you're able to pay, if you are not able to pay, you will not even be able to get the loan in the first place. To answer the question, I don't have a house that is my own. Not that I haven't purchased anyone before. I've had series of times when I want to build a house and I'll say that this house, I will take my friends there. Remember when I took my cell leader there to one of the houses, that this is the house that I want to build for myself. But along the way, someone came, gave me an offer and I took it. So I'm a cash flow guy. So I don't have my own house. My clients are always fighting with me every day. And when are you going to build your own house? When are you going to build your own house? But I believe that, the Bible says that the rich man's wealth is a stronghold. I believe that there is no stronghold in what like I said, maybe I haven't gotten as much money as they have got. I believe that if I'm going to buy a house, I should have like times 20 of that house. So if that house, something happens, fire comes, I can easily buy another house the next day. You know, so, and aside that, what I have as dream for the kind of house I want to build for myself, I'm yet to say it. So the kind of house that I want to build my house with glass and steel. And it's going to cost a fortune. So like I said, I don't want to build a house that I am not enjoying. And I don't want to actually squeeze myself to build a house. I believe that it's a process. You want to buy yourself a house, buy what you like. If I want to buy myself a Mercedes Benz, and I'm a GLE fan, and you tell me that there's a brand new GL, it's GLE I want. And that's what I want, and that's why I haven't gotten it. And I feel that, well, I was with a client recently and he said that, Akeem, if you want to own yourself a house now, you can. I said yes. But you know, that ability to can is different from ability to actually do it without stress. Owning a house is not a dream. So do I have property that yield me money? Yes. Yes, I do. I have a couple of them. They yield me, like I said about shortlets, I have some that yield me money that some people are collecting rent. If they know about it, they'll chase their tenants out of the house. So I just hope that nobody's landlord is listening to this.
Okay, so you mentioned, give me a name of a very popular person, maybe not even Nigerian, maybe in the world that would love to build a house for.
Come to think of it, I mean, that's a very, very, very interesting question to ask. I'd like to build a house for Elon Musk. Not because he came out to be the world richest man. I've been following him since his days of owning PayPal, when he was the owner of PayPal. And what I like about him is the fact that his ability to challenge the norm. So you don't want to build a house for somebody that doesn't challenge you in the process of the building. You want somebody who would challenge every bit of your personality, someone who gets you angry. If you are building for someone who doesn't get you angry, that everything that you say is all right, you won't be challenged. You know, somebody who is doing the Hyperloop, somebody who is going to space, who's probably going to build a hotel in the space, somebody who thought of electric car, and everybody was thinking about it as if it was just like a dream. And now electric cars is almost like the norm. So the world is changing in the sense that even developers that are building houses now know that your house has to come smart. So he's going to need a smart home. He's going to need a home that his Hyperloop will need to take him to his room, his master bedroom. So it would be nice to build a house for someone like that. And if you ask me to do a second person, it will be Mr. Easy. Mr. Easy happens to be one of the smartest people in Nigeria. When I mean smartest people, I read about how he created a hub where he was incubating musicians, and I thought about the idea that he brought together to actually start like something like that, to incubate people, incubator for musicians. It's not an ordinary thing that anybody would think. And by the way, a lot of people see him as a musician. I see him as a businessman from his time when he was in Ghana, when he started as a gold miner. And you know, I've seen how he has moved. No matter how great Wizkid would be today, it's part of the success story of Wizkid. And it's part of major success stories of people who have actually become something. So I believe that with him, it's also going to twist my mind. It's going to bend me over. Because he has like an unassuming, I mean, look at your reaction when I said Mr. Easy. But the honest truth, Mr. Easy would make a very good client. Yeah, I mean, just imagine, how could Otedola would have accepted him as a father, as a son-in-law, to be? So I would want to build for those two guys, because I don't want to take a Nigerian out of the people I want to build for.